Welcome to Legal Marketing Happy Hour.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Legal Marketing Happy Hour, where we serve up tactical marketing insights that help law firms grow smarter, faster, and more profitably. Today's guest is Kestran, a digital paid media strategist at Above the Bar Marketing. My name's Sean O'Connor, and in today's episode, we're breaking down why law firm paid ads generate clicks and leads but still fail to turn into signed cases, and where those breakdowns usually happen. So, Miles, good to see you.
Thanks, Sean. Happy to be here.
Awesome. You know, this is a big challenge for people. Excuse me, right? You're spending money, you're not seeing the kind of results you want. A lot of firms see clicks and even leads coming in from ads, but they're not seeing, signed contracts, so to speak. What's actually happening between that first click and the final decision to hire?
A lot is happening. In advertising, we go in advertising we go by the three C's, and it's either the creative, the copy, or the conversion process. And typically, the creative and the copy is going to fall on my part, and that conversion process is going to fall on the law firm. So one of those three areas is lacking, and it's my job to work with the law firms to decide and figure out, which one of those three C's is the cause for the lack of signed cases.
Yeah. I mean, I would think with the, with the creative, the copy, the messaging there, if you're getting the clicks, then that tells me that that's probably working to some extent.
Most importantly, you need the conversions, right? A lot of people are clicking around the internet, but you need the people to pick up the phone and call. So that's usually the gap that's missing.
How do you, what's the process or the trick, if you will, to separate issues coming, from the ads themselves from, say, problems that start, well, basically in that conversion funnel, I guess, after someone clicks and maybe they land on a page or they reach out in some other way?
Yeah, again, the communication with the law firm is key. I have metrics on my end like click-through rate and conversion rate, and that tells me that people are clicking on the ad, they're liking what the ad is saying, they're going to landing page, and are they converting or not? And at that point, if they're clicking on the ad, they're calling the law firm, the gap has to be, it doesn't always have to be, but typically is on that conversion process and that intake with the law firm. Either they're not asking the right questions, they're not building the client's trust, or other factors, the reason why they're not hiring that firm for their particular reason.
Okay. What about lead quality, right? How much does lead quality come down to how campaigns are structured, or things like keyword selection, match types, negative keywords? How do you work on that?
Yeah, negative keywords are paid strategist's best friend. That's the backbone of any ad campaign. That's going to allow us to filter out anything that's unqualified and try to hone in on those quality cases, those quality leads. Obviously, keywords and match type play a really big part. With Google's ever-changing ecosystem, the match type needs to always be updated. A lot of the times you'll see campaigns with broad match, and that can be way too broad, where we like to focus on a phrase match or exact match for our campaigns. Obviously, all of our keywords are going to be intent-based keywords. So if it's an auto accident law firm, every keyword is going to be including law firm, lawyer, attorney, things like that, opposed to a question. What do I do after I was in an accident? That person may not be ready to call an attorney right now. So we're looking more so it's the bottom of the funnel keywords, the lawyer, law firm, attorney type keywords.
Yeah. Although I tell you, man, every attorney I talk to tells me you called too late. Like, can although, after an accident, right? I mean, you're frazzled, but tell me negative keywords, just for folks who may not know, that's, I'm searching, I use a specific word, and you guys are saying if they use that word in the search, they're not a match.
Yeah, essentially, it's refraining from our ads showing to anybody that's not within what we're looking for. For example, family law attorney, something like that, divorce attorney. You could be searching for a family daycare, and because that keyword family is in
Got
it
it.
might show up for a our ad may show up for a family daycare opposed to, family law attorney. So we're trying to
Mm,
negative out daycare, along with a lot of other keywords. Typically, our campaigns will have thousands of negative keywords in them after a
ah,
certain period of time.
okay, cool. Thanks for clarifying that. What does it look like on the business side when a firm is getting a high volume of leads, but most of them aren't a good fit?
That's kind of the nature of the business too. It is a volume-based business. But a lot of the firms, they want to be showing up at the top of the Google and having that opportunity for that case. If you're not being found on Google, if you're not being found in the, AI models, you're almost essentially not found on the internet.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a whack-a-mole where you're picking up a lot of phone calls and trying to find the ideal case.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah. That's why I live in Los Angeles, and I can find an attorney just by driving down the road very easily.
that's
So
true. Yeah. How many
it's like,
times have
but
you called an attorney from a billboard?
yeah, it seems as though they don't even know the internet exists. But what about walk us through a situation where, a firm thought their ads weren't working, but the real issue was somewhere else in the process? Do you have any, I don't, sort of quasi case study situation?
Yeah, and one of the tools we use is CallRail, and it's a call tracking number and call recording, and that seems to be, a paid strategist's best friend because we can go in and we can say, hey, we'll tell the firms you need to listen to a few of these calls and see if your intake is asking the right questions.
Ah,
And I've had scenarios where like the marketing director or CMO, chief marketing officer will go in and listen and say, oh wow, like that we could have taken that case, and the intake person is hanging up on them or telling them, we don't do that practice area or we don't practice that type of law. So the call recordings, listening to your intake, and really asking the right question is going to determine if a situation is good for a firm.
well, that's interesting. So the person who's picking up that call is an employee of the firm,
Yeah, correct.
right?
It should be an employee of the firm
Absolutely. I mean,
most
that
times.
I'm just setting that baseline in my head. It's like, okay, this is James. He's a junior associate or, intake specialist or whatever the title might be. He works for the firm. You guys, as part of your process, are recording some of those calls so that they can intentionally be listened back to.
Correct.
And I mean, for, internal, wow, that's interesting because for sure, right? That when I call some professional services firm, and my expectations aren't met because the person didn't seem any number of things, right?
Yeah, an expert. Yeah. And
It's like,
we've run into scenarios where sometimes they'll have, their son or their daughter, niece or nephew, 17
sure.
years old, first job type of, and they're just, they just want to get off that phone call as quickly as possible. And it's costing them money and leaving money on the table at the end of the day.
Wow, I want that job. I want that training job. I want to help people with that.
Yeah.
With because I give good phone, man. I give good phone.
And I think that's one of the biggest gaps we see in marketing advertising is the intake. I always say the most important person at the law firm is the person who answers the phone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's interesting, yeah. We're talking about tracking, right? And it's something a lot of firms struggle with because it's not necessarily right there on a dashboard. What should a law firm actually have in place to understand which ads are leading to real cases?
Yeah, and it, again, goes back to CallRail, and it's extremely helpful tool. And we use a dynamic number insertion, which is a constant rotating number on the ad or website.
Mm,
And each number is unique to each visitor. So my number would be different than yours, Sean. And that way we could take it back and say, hey, you signed 15 cases this month. We can look at the phone number and say, hey, Sean signed up with you on, May 16th from that phone number because it's a special phone number designated specifically for you. So that's one tool we use. And it also integrates right with Google, makes it seamless and easy.
ah, that's awesome. Um, I know landing pages are a thing. I'm wondering how landing pages and sort of the overall user experience influence whether someone who clicks on an ad actually reaches out or moves forward.
Right. Yeah. I mean, landing pages are huge. Typically, we will see a 20% boost in conversion rate using a landing page opposed to a website page. It's
Hmm.
just it's tailored to that specific ad. So The ad and copy is one way. The landing page is matching it. All the photos, everything is tailored to that specific user's search. So we see a big lift in conversion rate,
Ah,
and it's one of the keys to getting that conversion rate up above 20%.
that's a huge boost.
It
And so
is,
the
yeah.
landing page, so literally the landing page, you know, is obviously, associated with the website, the URL, but it's a unique URL that's fresh content that's consistent with the ad campaign versus just
Yep.
boilerplate. Like obviously the content on the website is good, but it tends to be evergreen. It's there for a long time.
Yeah, and a lot of these, law firms, they practice multiple areas of law. So if we're running a divorce ad and we send it directly to their website,
Mm,
they might be practicing business, they may be
yeah.
practicing, family
Okay.
law, divorce, personal injury.
Right.
So it just helps them get to the information they're looking for.
Yeah. I'm looking for uh, an oil rig injury specialist in Dallas, and I get to
Exactly.
the campaign takes me just to the contact page, and I see that they actually, and no problem that they do other areas of practice, but it, as a buyer, so to speak, that's going to be confusing to me, or potentially, you know what, I'm going to go with this firm because they seem more focused on my issue.
Exactly. And, at the end of the day, the landing page purpose is to get the user to call, fill out the form, or leave the page. One of those three things. Sean, I'm sure you can understand. You've been on websites before. You can go down the rabbit hole, clicking about, users' bios and, all these different things. And then after 20 minutes, you forget what you were doing there and you exit the page or
Yeah.
something. So that's the purpose of the landing page, to
Yeah,
convert,
that's true too, right? You want to keep
keep them
them.
focused.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, yeah. So, okay, so if a firm had to pressure test their ads like this week, right? This is sort of like as we wrap up here, Miles. Kind of, it's great to just kind of like, okay, people are listening, like, what should I do, right now? What's one specific signal that tells you the campaign isn't actually working? And maybe there's a couple other, quick red flags or flags to be looking for. What would your advice be to people out there right now?
It's a great question. I think we would all like, a one size fits all answer.
Totally.
I would say conversion rate at the end of the day is your ad converting and you're getting calls from it. But there's a lot more depth to an advertising campaign. I'm a big proponent of like device bids. So you can be advertising on a mobile phone, a computer, a tablet. Typically, people can't make a phone call from a tablet or a computer. So I'm trying to focus on mobile devices. I'm trying to focus on phone calls opposed to like an email or a form fill. I'm always looking at the location, keywords. I mean, again, one size fits all answer is conversion rate, but I look at, dozens and dozens of different metrics to see if a campaign is performing or not.
It's like in this, like all aspects of well, tech and law. Like, well, the answer is always, almost always, it depends.
Exactly.
Although I do, I think that there's a whole bunch of law firms out there that have, at some point, like hopefully within the last 10 years they had their website redesigned, and and they were doing search engine optimization. The web design firm was selling them that in a good way. Like you got to
Yep. Yep.
optimize and keywords and some of that. They're going to plug it into Google Analytics, right? I mean, there is a certain baseline. Like I've encountered a lot of firms that have, okay, it's just very rudimentary almost. And so, like,
Yes.
I think people listening here could just be, one question to ask so as not to appear stupid, so to speak. It's like, what do our Google Analytics? And it's like, who is managing the website? You could just say, hey, I'd love to see our Google Analytics, and be like, oh, geez, who has the password to the analytics? Like I'm sure there's some data there that people just aren't
Oh yeah.
dealing with,
Yep.
right?
And if you think about the mobile device too, the amount of searches done is increasingly on mobile devices year over year. I think it's like 80% of the searches done on the internet are done through a mobile phone.
Yeah.
So making sure your website and your ads are tailored to that mobile platform. And it's only just continued to grow, especially with the LLMs, the Geminis, and the Chat GPTs of the world. So it's just you want to make sure you're where people are, and that seems to be on their cell phone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's awesome. Well, listen, Miles, thanks a bunch for
Thank
your
you,
time,
Sean.
your expertise, your point of view. We're up against time, which happens, but I look forward to a future conversation. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. Appreciate it. Take
You
care.
bet. That's it for today's episode of Legal Marketing Happy Hour. If your firm is investing in paid ads but not seeing the return you expected, it may not be the ads themselves. It's everything that happens around them. So, to learn more or connect with the team, visit the website abovethebarmarketing.com. And don't forget, if you found this episode helpful, leave us some thumbs up, maybe a review. Share a link with a colleague. That always helps. And maybe subscribe. I appreciate it. I'm Sean O'Connor. Have a great day.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.